Federal agents opened fire on a man on a Minneapolis street. Not one agent, more than one. And at least 10 shots. The man was a VA ICU nurse. He was legally armed. Here, we don't test guilt or motives. We test real cases against the law, frame by frame. And that's where this case becomes dangerous. Because this case does not turn on how it began. It turns on how it escalated. And if the videos are right, that escalation may be the part the law cannot forgive. Stay with me, because the answer is not obvious. Now, the facts. January 24, South Minneapolis. Federal immigration agents, including Border Patrol, are conducting an enforcement operation. They encounter Alex Pretti, U.S. citizen, VA ICU nurse, lawful gun owner. In the hours after the shooting, DHS says Pretti approached agents with a 9mm handgun. But on video, no gun is visible in his hand. What he appears to be holding is a cell phone. That distinction matters, because this is not a man advancing with a firearm. It's an arrest. Agents believe he's interfering. They move to restrain him. Pretti is outnumbered, surrounded, being forced to the ground. Then everything compresses into seconds. Pepper spray, shouting, hands grabbing. And this moment matters. On video, one agent is seen removing Pretti's handgun from his waistband. The weapon is no longer on him. Seconds later, gunfire, more than one agent firing, at least 10 shots. Pretti never gets back up. If this case were charged criminally, the prosecution would reduce it to one word: necessity. An imminent threat of death or serious bodily harm. Prosecutors would argue that by the time multiple agents fired, the factual basis for that belief had already eroded. The defense will not deny the videos. They'll focus on perception inside the chaos. They'll argue that this was not a stable arrest. It was a rapidly evolving struggle. And in that chaos, perception fragments. An agent may have heard the word gun shouted. Another may have believed Pretti was reaching. Another may not have seen that the gun was removed. Still another may have heard the word gun, then heard gunshots, believing Pretti was a shooter. Deadly force law does not require certainty. It requires a reasonable belief in the moment. From that perspective, the defense argues fear overtook restraint. Now the cross-examination. Here's where the law stops being forgiving. The initial claim was a man advancing with a gun. The video clearly shows a phone. And once the firearm is physically removed, as we see in the video, the legal question changes. Yes, the law allows an instinctive first reaction to sudden fear. It does not allow prolonged lethal force after the factual basis for that fear disappeared. 10 shots from more than one agent after the gun is no longer on him. Deadly force must track reality, not shouted words, not assumptions, not momentum. Deadly force is permitted only while it remains necessary to stop an imminent deadly threat. Lawful gun possession is not a crime. It is not aggression by itself. If possession alone justifies lethal force, the right to carry would be meaningless. The law demands restraint, even in seconds. Once control replaces danger. Now, my ruling. This encounter did not begin as a deadly force situation. It began as an arrest of a man holding a phone, not a gun. And on the videos, his firearm is removed before the shooting occurs. These two facts matter, because even granting the defense fear, confusion, and chaos, deadly force became unjustified as it continued. Multiple agents firing repeated shots into a man who has been disarmed is not self-defense. It is excess. Having a gun is a right. Holding a phone is not a threat. And once that weapon was removed, any reasonable belief of imminent danger should have ended. Some may argue that an officer could have heard the word gun shouted and then heard the shots and believed Pretti was still armed and dangerous. But the law does not permit continued killing based on hearsay, noise, or instinct alone. What matters is whether a reasonable officer, seeing what was actually visible at that moment, could still see an imminent deadly threat. In criminal law, deadly force must stop when the threat stops. And here, based on what the video shows, it didn't. If you want clear legal analysis on real cases, then subscribe. And remember, the truth matters, and so does reasonable doubt. See you in the next case.